Today, we shall begin the topic sequence and series. This topic is very important in mathematics because it helps us to understand patterns, make predictions, and solve real-life problems involving growth, finance, and sciences. Now, let's get into the lecture.
In mathematics, when numbers appear or are presented one after the other in an orderly manner, we often refer to the set of numbers as what? As sequence. So when numbers appear or are presented one after the other in an orderly manner, that's the emphasis, in an orderly manner, we often refer to the set of numbers as sequences. Example, if you look at this set of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, this is a sequence with the rule of adding 1 to each of the preceding number to obtain the next number. This is what I mean. Look at the sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You can see that the rule of formation for this sequence is the addition of 1. So if I add 1 to this, I get the next term. If I add 1 again to this, you can see this plus 1, I get 3. So if I add 1 to 3, I get what? I get 4. So this is a sequence of numbers with the rule of adding 1 to each of the preceding number to obtain the next number. Now let's look at another classical example. The sequence 5, 10, 20, 40 is a sequence of set of numbers with the rule of multiplying the preceding number by 2. This is what I mean. If you look at the system, the sequence 5, 10, 20, and then 40, you can see that the rule for the formation of this sequence is multiplying the preceding number by 2. So 5 times 2 gives me 10. 10 times 2 gives me what? 20. That's the rule. 20 times 2 gives me what? Gives me 40. So that's why we say that 5, 10, 20, 40 is a sequence with the rule of multiplying the preceding number by 2 to obtain the next number. Now look at other example. For instance, minus 3, minus 1, 1, and 3 is a sequence with the rule of adding 2 to the preceding number to obtain the next number. Now look at it with me. If you look at this sequence, this set of numbers, minus 3, minus 1, 1, 3, and so on, we say it is a sequence of numbers with the rule of adding 2 to the preceding number. So if I add 2 to 3 here, you see, minus 3 plus 2 gives me minus 1. If I add 2 again to minus 1, right, I get 1. If I add 2 to 1, what happens? I get 3. So that's the rule of formation for the sequence. So we say minus 3, minus 1, 1, and 3 is a sequence with the rule of adding 2 to the preceding number to obtain the next number. Now look at this other example. The sequence 2, 6, 18, and 14. It is formed by the rule of what? Of multiplying the preceding number by what? By 3. 2, 6, 18, 54. It's a sequence of numbers and it is formed by multiplying the preceding number by 3. So you see, 2 times 3 gives me 6. 6 times 3 gives 18. 18 times 3 gives what? 54. So these are examples of sequence. Final example, the sequence 16, 8, 4, and 2 is formed with the rule of dividing the preceding number by 2. How do we do that? Look at the sequence 16, 8, 4, and 2. So the rule of formation is if we divide the preceding number by 2. So 16 divided by 2 gives me 8. 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. 4 divided by 2 gives me what? 2. So you can see that this is a sequence. Now, let's look at the concept of series. What are series? Series is simply the sum of the various elements of a sequence. That is, whenever we add the terms in any given sequence, it makes up what we call a series. Now, let's look at some example to illustrate this. Now, if you look at the series of the sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, what's a series? It's simply 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 and so on. If you also consider the series of the sequence, remember I said that series is simply the sum of addition of the elements of a sequence. So the series of the sequence 5, 10, 20 and 40 is what? 5 plus 10 plus 20 plus 40 and so on. Similarly, the series of the sequence minus 3, minus 1, 1 and 3 is simply the addition of the elements, which are minus 3 plus minus 1 plus 1 plus 3 and so on. Okay, now something. Before we conclude this lecture, I want you to note that series and sequences are classified into two. Now, we have the finite sequence or finite series, and then we have the infinite sequence or infinite series. Now, what are finite sequence? Finite sequence are simply sequences that ends after a finite number of terms. That means a series or a sequence that terminates after some terms is called a finite sequence or a finite series. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4 till maybe 102. You can see that this sequence truncates at 102. Therefore, we call it a finite sequence. And then if you look at the example in the series, remember the series is the sum of the element of the sequences. So you can see 1 plus 2 plus 3 till 102 is called a finite series. While the infinite sequence are sequences that continues indefinitely. Example, 4, 8, 12, 16, and so on. You see, this is called the ellipsis. Whenever you see a sequence that ends with an ellipsis, it means that sequence is an infinite sequence. And similarly, you can see that the series is simply 4 plus 8 plus 12 plus 16, and so on. Okay, we've come to the end of this particular lecture. In our next lecture, we shall be considering the concept of arithmetic progression. See you in our next class. Thank you.